Welcome to the November 15th Eclipse OpenJ9 community call. As always, if you're an attendee, can you add your name and the company you work for to the list so we know who's regularly attending? And we have our usual agenda in front of us. If there's something you'd like to add, feel free to chime in at any point in the call, or now, or to add it into the any other business section at the end of the agenda. So I'll pause to see if there's something somebody wants to jump in with. Don't have a lightning talk scheduled this week, but if you have one you'd like to give, reach out to me. We'll get something set up. All right, so let's take a look at the recent user-raised issues. There's been a couple that have come in since the last call. There's a crash when instrumenting classes that I think, Pete, you tagged Toby on. So hopefully he's able to take a look at that or get somebody to. Second one is a JIT crash, which looks to have been assigned out already. Good. JIT server connection question, some conversation there. And a failure to create core files on macOS 13. So looks like these are all reasonably in hand. Is there anything that needs some discussion today? And we will jump back to the agenda. That brings us to the direction and roadmap section. I know the Mac builds or the Mac machines were down for a bit last week because they were being moved. Are they back up, and is that unblocked the AArch64 Mac builds for 035?
I think so. All the builds finished overnight last night, so I assume they're using the new machines. Since when, I'm not sure.
So do we have a better idea? So the AArch64 builds for 035, are they complete then?
Oh, sorry.
Marius, we're getting a lot of feedback off you. Can you mute for now?
No, we still don't have builds for AArch64 Mac. We're still doing testing, and the testing is delayed on infrared issues.
All right, so we will keep that on the release plan for now then. That brings us to 036. Did you get a chance to update this, Pete, with the 4 issues?
Yes, that's the latest.
So it looks like we're in reasonable place for this, given we're branching at the end of the week.
I don't see any concerns. Maybe we'll be able to get some more fixes in, maybe not. If not, they can just move out.
All right, so that, good to see that we're scheduled to get that released. Anything else worth calling out around this?
Nothing from me.
Then why don't we skip over Java 20 and we'll go to the Java 19. Looks like you've updated this as well, so we're down to 19 issues there.
Yep. I did add a new question about, so we talked last week about delivering Java 19 on top of 036. So if we're going to consider that, we need to track any PRs that go in after we branch on Friday. So then there's a question of how do we track them? I put some possibilities there. We could create a milestone or a project to add them into. We already have a backport candidate label, so we could label them all as backport candidate and JDK 19, which I think is my preferred solution. We could come up with some other label, or we could create another branch at the same time we create 036 and start double delivering right away. But of course, if we do that and there's more changes that go into 036, we would have to double deliver those 036 changes as well as the Java 19 changes.
I think it makes the most sense to use the labels, the backport candidate and JDK 19. Use the mechanisms we have in place already. Anyone else feel strongly about a different approach? Okay, so then it seems like the approach we should be taking is for anything that's JDK 19 specific or related, we need to make sure we've got both those labels on it after Friday. All right, so if we take a look at what's in this list, though, do we have a sense of how, there's 18 items here, do we have a sense of whether this is the tip of the iceberg, or are we sense that we're getting towards the last set of issues for 19?
I think certainly the number of issues is reducing. So I think we have a pretty good sense of all the outstanding items, and we're moving in the right direction.
I will say that for some of the JIT issues that are there, that some of them are requiring deeper investigation. Some of them are not reproducible with diagnostic information, sort of the usual story for some of the JIT problems that we have. So even though the number is down to about 9 or less, some of them may take a little while yet to get to the root of the problem.
Yeah, that's always been my concern with this, is that I think there's some issues that are lurking in here.
There's not a lot of different failures that happen in the nightly builds in the open. There's only about 3 or 4 things that happen on a regular basis. One concern is the tests that are still excluded. If those tests are still excluded, we're not running them. They could expose new problems once they're unexcluded. So I'm also wondering why they're excluded.
Jack, do you have details on why they're excluded?
All right. So some of the testing have been excluded because they were only fixed in the VM or GC, and we're still waiting for the result from the invalid return address.
So there's still a bug, is what you're saying?
Yeah. So I think out of the 18 issues, 3 or 4 of them were all targeting the same issue we've seen, which is the invalid return address. Nazim have been working on it, and he's slowly making some progress in terms of understanding whether it was caused by the swapping or not. But we haven't had.
It's not caused by the swapping. We've sort of ruled that one out.
Okay.
There's some other issue here. I'm going to help him with that today. I'll work with him.
So to answer the original question, so some tests are failing in multiple ways. We've addressed some of the failures in those tests, but there's still, like the invalid return address failure, that is still failing on a regular basis, which is why they're still excluded.
Okay, well, it sounds like we're putting the required effort into getting that fixed so we can get them unexcluded. That's good.
Is that one issue with the JIT invalid return address the only issue that is preventing tests from being re-enabled or enabled?
There is one VM issue related to the modification to object weight that is currently being reviewed by GAC, and once that's merged, I will unexclude the particular test that is excluded due to that. I think there is also a GC related issue that Lynn is looking into that could potentially unblock one or two of the testing. Everything else we've seen so far are mostly related to the JIT invalid return address.
Well, it sounds like that's a high priority. It's good that Daryl and Zim are taking a look at that.
Just by the way, the same item, 16 to 49 for JIT invalid address, there are a number of crashes in scavenger. You bet pointer to the list for virtual lists, virtual object lists. So it might be the same issue, but might be different. It's kind of mess there. So hard to tell. But if it's not GC issue, it's most likely VM, something VM manipulate with this virtual threads list. It always happens for root when list has one element.
Is it worth having VM take a separate look from the JIT team?
The GC issue that Dimitri talked about, I have spoke with Lynn yesterday about, and I suggested one approach to define whether it was VM that's making the issue or if it's GC that's making the problem. And he will be testing the changes I suggested today to confirm whether VM have been incorrectly modifying the GC list. From what I hear from Lynn, the special case is reproducible with Xint, so there is no JIT involved in terms of manipulating the thread list. Sorry, not the thread list, the continuation list.
Jack, to be sure that you are not mismatching different defects. One thing clean works at, it's assertion due circular pointer, circular reference inside continuation object list. It's one thing when we got assertion in GC. Another thing, it's a crashes in scavenger due one element in the different list. It's threads list, virtual threads list. We discussed it with you like last Tuesday, I believe.
Okay, yeah. I believe the null reference in the VM's reference list has been fixed with weapon changes going in. I'm not sure exactly how it fixed it, but we never see any assertion failures
It
there.
happens today. It just happens. I just closed as duplicate another item.
Okay.
Jason opened this morning.
Okay, we'll take a look into that then.
Just check the build that ran on to make sure it's got needs changes in it.
Yeah.
I don't know, Jason, are you on the call?
Yeah.
Was that triage from the nightly builds or was it from the weekend builds?
Weekend builds.
So when do you
So
know
what?
when? Does somebody know when BAM Dietz changes went in?
I think it was 4 days ago.
Okay, so that would be before the weekend builds.
What's the PR name? So I can have a quick look.
Number is 16351, I believe.
So I can look at an Git log to see. So this build running on is that's the merge pull request 16332 from the Arch 64 core. So before the, I don't, is the Babney now check VT list is the one. I don't see any in PR from Babney after this weekend run.
Okay, so it seems Babnit's changes in there, so it didn't really fix it.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that one again.
Cheng, where are we at with the Panama side of things?
Have that in terms of the JIT test failure. So WIM side, we still got one PRs still in code review with the latest changes. In terms of the sound generation code failure, on Linux, everything's fixed. Axis 4, Kuno already fixed everything with their PRs merged. There's one issue left. I think it's related to the Libify Axis 4. We already connect everything together to send a bug report to Libify to make sure to request them to fix map. But I think they should take a little while. They have not yet responded to us. X6, there have a solution out there. The code review is still ongoing. Yeah, that's everything on my side.
Cheng, is that libffi problem, is that something that's specific to OpenJ9, or is that observable on the OpenJDK implementation as well?
What do you mean OpenJDK hotspot?
Yeah.
I don't think they have, because they didn't. Hotspot didn't integrate Libify in their code changes, so they have different implementation FFI. So we cannot do that because Connor already confirmed that the problems come from the Libify. The problem, what happens is the arguments after structure were messed up. So the arguments is corrupted after that when he called it. The Genie call.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. I'll just read through that a little bit more. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is we still have a fair bit of investigation and debugging to go through between Loom and Panama to be ready to go. Just looking timelines, we were going to branch for Java 20 in January. The end of January. That doesn't leave us a huge amount of time here, especially given the...
That's following the formula that we would follow if everything was going according to plan. I don't think we should branch for Java 20 before we are ready for Java 19.
My concern is if we don't branch, at some point we're going to run out of time to get 20 out the door as well. So we might make sense to branch later, but we do need to be looking at what's it going to take to get 20 out the door.
Agreed. But if we can't ship 19, we can't ship 20. So 19 has to be in a good state. And then we don't even have a JEP list for 20 yet, although I've seen some stuff in the news about candidates. But there's nothing on the website yet.
Yeah, it looked like both Loom was being previewed again. That structured concurrency was an incubator again. Thought I saw update about scoped values being likely to make as well. Scoped
Likely
values
as
has
an
point.
incubator.
Pardon?
Likely as an incubator.
But we still have, what is it, 2 months of technical debt related to structure concurrency as well to take down at some point, based on the existing estimate of how long it would take to implement that. Do we have a date, a tentative date on when we believe we should just not ship 19 and switch our efforts to 20?
Not a hard date, but we can't ship 19 after the April release comes out. So when we get into March, we should probably think about 20. Not something we need to decide now.
Not something we need to decide now, but we do need to be thinking about a drop dead date on not shipping 19 and just moving.
Well, I'd rather keep the pressure on to actually get 19 out. Hopefully get it out in January. And talk too much about drop dead dates.
Yeah, if we can get it out in January, that would be great. Right, we will continue to look at this. Is there anything else we want to talk about on the 19 release? Then we don't have a lot of time, but we'll go through the other items on our list. Do we have an update from Adopt? See the usual Adopt folks on here, so skip that, I guess. Adam, do we have an update on the infrastructure? Actually, I don't see Adam either, so. Marius, is there an Sorry, go ahead, Pete.
Just going to say, I don't think there's any concerns. We had those ARCH 64 machines offline, but I guess they came back. Builds are going through. We have space. I think things are good.
Great. It's good to hear. Marius, is there any update for JIT Server?
So AOT cache persistence code is merged now, and it's going into 036. That's all.
Would that affect non-JIT server AOT?
No, it's strictly related to. Yeah.
Just noticing that we had 3 failures in the AO testing last night that I haven't had a chance to look at yet.
Yeah, the code is specific to JIT server, so that there is no outside your server. You cannot have an error to the code.
Two of them are regular crashes anyway, so we'll just ignore those.
MicroJIT, the next meeting, what's the formula on this? Is it 1 week or 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
To pull up a calendar.
December 1st.
Thank you. Toby, is there an update on CRIU support?
Nothing new to discuss this week.
Daryl, is there an update on the M1 work?
Nothing new this week.
Any other business we want to tackle this week?
We could update the compressed stress support is definitely not making it for January. So I guess we're going to look at it again for April.
Yes, it's one of the top priorities for Apple Silicon.
there's no other business, then I guess the next one of these calls will be November 29th.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.